House Republicans voted Wednesday to remove Congresswoman Liz Cheney from her position as GOP conference chair. The Wyoming representative was the number 3 Republican in the House, and she was voted out of that position after publicly denouncing former President Trump's false claims of voter fraud during the 2020 election. Despite her ouster, Cheney says she will remain a vocal critic of Mr. Trump's. CBS News correspondent Nikole Killion has more.
Moments after Liz Cheney's ouster by members of her own party, the Congresswoman emerged undeterred.
Congresswoman, do you feel betrayed by today's vote?
I do not. I think that it is an indication of where the Republican Party is. We cannot be dragged backward by the very dangerous lies of a former president.
Cheney was booted as the number 3 leader in the party in a closed-door vote that lasted only about 15 minutes.
The election is over.
Sources inside the room tell CBS News the Wyoming Republican was booed after saying she won't embrace former President Trump's big lie that the 2020 election was stolen. She told them, "If you want leaders who will enable and spread his destructive lies, I'm not your person."
I will do everything I can to ensure that the former president never again gets anywhere near the Oval Office.
The former president, who has pushed for her removal for months, called Cheney a bitter, horrible human being, as some of her Republican colleagues publicly celebrated her demise.
Frankly, it doesn't serve us well if she's fomenting division in our ranks.
The shakeup caps a remarkable turn of events for the GOP lawmaker who was once considered a possible future Speaker of the House. One of Cheney's few public supporters today, the widow of late Senator John McCain, who said Liz Cheney chose truth over lies. She chose country over party.
Do you think the party has hit a low?
I hope so.
Another, Illinois Republican Adam Kinzinger, said his colleagues chose their path forward.
The conference has made their will heard. They want to continue to go along with this kind of Trump vision of the future of the party.
And Nikole Killion joins me now from Capitol Hill. Nikole, just hours after the Cheney vote, House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said, quote, "I don't think anyone is questioning the legitimacy of the presidential election." But that seems to contradict why many believe the Congresswoman was actually voted out of her position. So does McCarthy's statements track with the rest of the GOP? And where does the party stand in terms of their support for former President Trump and his continued calls that the election was illegitimate?
Well, McCarthy did speak to reporters back here at the Capitol after that White House meeting and said, you know, this isn't about how any members voted with respect to impeachment. This was really about who can best deliver their message. So that's kind of how he is couching that. And that really is, in his view and in Republican leaders' view, the main reason why this vote took place today. You know, they felt that after a certain point, Liz Cheney was becoming a distraction, and while certainly many argue she's becoming a distraction for telling the truth, you know, they feel that the bottom line is that they are relying on the former president to play a major role in the upcoming midterms, and so they did not see it as fruitful discussion or situation to have somebody like Liz Cheney constantly criticizing the former president. And she has made clear, as you heard in her comments today, as you heard her say on the floor last night, and as she has been saying for months now, that she will not back down as far as her criticisms of the former president. She has made clear that she does not subscribe to his lies and that she doesn't believe that the party should either. And, you know, therein lies the issue because there is this divide in the Republican Party right now between who's going to follow the former president and who isn't. And of course, Cheney has staked out her position. And again, we'll kind of have to see how this plays out in the months to come as we do get closer to the midterms next year.
Yeah, given all of that, making McCarthy's comments that much more interesting. Nikole, this was a voice vote, which means no individual votes were specifically recorded. But do we have any sense of how close the vote actually was?
You know, we don't have any numerical breakdown, but some members seem to suggest that Cheney did not have a lot of support in the room, that it was tepid at best. But, you know, that was to be expected. And quite frankly, going into the meeting, a lot of members didn't want to say how they were going to vote. And so ultimately, we may not necessarily know how things ultimately broke down, but you know, this was a situation where the outcome almost was predetermined, and I think, you know, you saw that in the run-up to the vote with Liz Cheney penning that very strongly worded op-ed in the Washington Post last week, saying that history is watching. And again, she gave that speech on the House floor yesterday, really taking her colleagues to task about the future of the party. And, you know, especially once the House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy and Whip Scalise announced that they were backing Cheney's replacement, Elise Stfanik, it pretty much became clear that the writing was on the wall for her. So I think that's why this vote moved so swiftly. It happened in about 15 minutes. And, you know, at this point, GOP leaders say they're ready to move on.
And Nikole, I do want to ask you more about Congresswoman Stfanik, but before that, I just want to pause and ask another question about Congresswoman Cheney's political future, because as you know, she's up for re-election in 2022. Do we have any sense where her political future stands after this vote? And do we know if the party will even support her in a re-election bid?
Well, she made clear to her colleagues today, both behind closed doors and again to the cameras, that, you know, she does intend to be a part of this party, and that she is committed to restoring the party in her view. And so that really is her mantra going forward. So she's not going quietly by any means. At this point, you know, she has not expressed any indication that she would not run for re-election again, but we do know that, again, you know, she has made clear that she is committed to the future of the Republican Party in whatever role she plays going forward.
And you mentioned that Congresswoman Stfanik is a top contender to replace Cheney. I'm hoping you can tell our viewers a little bit more about her, and when will a vote take place?
Well, Liz Stfanik has been an up-and-comer in the Republican Party. She came into Congress in 2014. She was the youngest Republican woman to come into office at that time, and I believe the youngest woman as well. And so, look, you know, she has kind of risen through the ranks. What's interesting to note about her, she comes from a district in New York, a swing district. She actually endorsed Liz Cheney for the GOP conference chair position just 2 years ago, but certainly in the last couple of years, she has increasingly become a staunch Trump ally. She was very integral in his defense during the first impeachment trial, and you know, continues to be a very vocal advocate for the former president. He did endorse Stfanik for this leadership position, and as I mentioned earlier, so have the top two GOP leaders. So at this point, you know, it's expected that she will likely become the next conference chair, but she is facing some challenges. Just late today, there were some members of the House Freedom Caucus who said they may mount a potential challenge to her. They don't think this should be a coronation or that she should run unopposed, and some are even calling for a delay in a vote on her position, which we were expecting to happen this week, but again, that could potentially be in doubt. Stfanik, I will add, though, does say that she feels she has enough support, though, for the position, and she continues to meet with members to try to rally support.
And we have certainly seen some top Republican names throw their support behind her. All right, Nikole, thank you.
You bet.